So with no further ado, let's go ahead and describe the project for Claude. And I really want to see that I'm doing this real live. I'm not going to copy and paste a piece of text from my tablet or anything. I'm going to write every single thing myself and involve you in the process as we go. So here we go. Okay, so hi Claude. I want to build a complete SaaS business. And I have this project called ClubOS in mind. ClubOS, we can just give it a short name, say COS. Is a system that I want to provide for, say, for clubs and associations where they can handle or manage, let's call it manage, their members, payments, teams, comms, the whole lot. And here I'm leaving like a little bit of headroom for it to actually think about what it would propose for such a system. I'm not talking about specific, say, technologies. I'm not talking about the tech stack here. I would assume that it probably chooses something like Next or React or Stripe, all those kinds of stuff. Maybe some Prism, maybe some Prometheus, Grafana, Tailwind, CSS, that kind of stuff to build this part of the system. Okay. However, I was thinking about building a SaaS boilerplate. Let's call that a BP boilerplate first, and then on top of that, build the COS. I want to tell it why I want to do this, because then it can take measurements towards the structure, the architecture, and everything. So first of all, on top of that, I want to be able to sell or provide. I'm not gonna write by subscription. I would actually believe that it defaults to that. One-time fee is never a good idea, because one-time fee is like you get one payment. Well, maybe you can do it hybrid, but one-time fee is like, okay, we pay for it once and then they never pay for it again. And that's not a good way to go, unless that we say, okay, one-time fee per minor or per major version or something like that. But that's kind of the business idea in this, and we have to kind of think about the future as well. So I don't think that it's a good idea. For example, there are plugins that sells for, say, for €6 or €20 a month, and that is actually much better than providing it at €500 or €600 for a lifetime license, because you will have the revenue that comes in all the time. Otherwise, you have a bunch of money that comes in once, maybe, but you don't have that kind of continuous development. And feel free to challenge that. I'm actually all ears. Also, if you have any ideas towards what we could actually build into this boilerplate or into COS, for example, let me know. Just put it down in the comments down below, and also just give me your point of view if you want something different or something more deep diving into some kind of project or solution or something that we could build upon on top of this boilerplate as well, just come bring it in and we'll do it. So anyways, here I want to be able to provide, say, the BP later on, or maybe even from the beginning, not later on, the BP separately. That way it knows that I want to build something on top of the other one. And we, of course, need full multi-tenancy and the whole, I'm going to say the whole lot here again. I want to start out with, say, an MVP on both BP and COS. I don't know how much I should direct it here, but I don't want to make all the decisions up front. But let's see where it's headed around here. Maybe I will go a little bit further and say, no, actually, just let's stop here and say, what do you think? Oh, yeah, one thing. I have to give it some context about the developing that I want to, or how I want to develop it, because otherwise it will probably believe that I will use Claude Code, which is perfectly fine and fair. But I want it to know that I wanted to create a prompt in the end for Replit. So let's bring that in here as well. I want to use Replit for the development of this SaaS business. I will use my own environment for deploying. That can be LXC or Linux containers. It could be just plain VMs, just that we can scale it. We have to think long term about scalability. Multi VM / containers. So the end result of our chat at some point will be a prompt that I can use for Replit to start the development. Okay, now I think I've actually given it enough enough information. So let's just hit enter and see what it actually thinks. Okay, cool. Let's see where it goes. Okay, solid, well-structured approach. Let's break down why this makes sense. This approach works because separation of concerns, building the boilerplate first creates a strong foundation, of course. Battle-tested multi-tenancy, auth, billing, and core SaaS features before adding the club-specific logic. Cool. 2 revenue streams, so it's already thinking about monetizing. So there you go. One time or license. Yeah, I'm not going to do the one time, but I kind of had the idea that it would come up with that. And recurring SaaS, which diversifies your income. Forced best practice. Building for reusability means you'll architect things probably from day one, proper abstraction, clean interfaces, probably some API at the end as well. And Postgres, yeah, cool. I like that with RLS. Backend, Node Express, it's fine. Python Fast API. And then we have React and Next. I think it will probably be the first here. Docker Kubernetes, like Railroad Render and FlyIO initially. And then we have the multi-tenancy. You see, this is actually a good question. Here, I would say let's go like well, maybe a hybrid approach for bigger companies or bigger customers. It would be a database per tenant. It's a little bit more complex because we have multiple databases that we need to update if we update a version. So I would actually prefer not to go that road and say, okay, let's do say one database for everyone, and then have multiple read with Postgres, for example, have multiple read databases as we scale bigger and bigger. Okay, but let's just keep it there for now. The MVP scope for BP, the authentication and authorization with RBAC, with also role-based access, multi-tenant data isolation, the subscription payment handling, Stripe and Paddle, and basic admin dashboard, the API structure with tenant context. This is important because we need to be able to interact with that at a later point. Email system, user management, and for COS, basic payment tracking, due fees. I think here we also need them to be able to pay. This is not that important actually, but let's try to scope that with Claude a little bit later on here. Replit consideration, fast iteration, built-in collaboration, easy prototyping. See, you need proper environment variable management for secrets. We can do that. Database should be external, not Replit built-in DB for production parity. Yeah. Consider how you handle migration from Replit to your production environment. Actually, here we could just do GitHub and then clone GitHub and then down. So let's see how we can handle that. Before I help you craft the Replit prompt, a few quick questions. Okay, so let's just take this one. There are a few things that we actually need to think of here. So let's just continue here. Say tech stack. No pref. But for simplicity, I think we should probably go Node.js, right? Let's just state that as a question. Cool coffee, I love it. Not. And here, that was inconsistent auth approach. Why shouldn't we just do like we shouldn't build it ourselves? I think that we should just do as much bootstrap as much as we can here. Payment. Let's go Stripe here, and then have own invoicing. I don't, invoicing. I don't want to use Stripe as processor. Yeah, Stripe for processing probably. Payment processing, and then have our own invoicing engine. There we go. Deployment targets. Own environment. I should actually just go like that. Yeah, see, no fluff, no guru nonsense. Say own environment, multi VMs or LXC. It will know what that is. And then down here, I think that as we build US on top of BP, and we should be able to sell BP as a separate project. And a framework, like the framework mindset, would probably be the way to go. What do you think? Something that I also have to think about here is, for example, the payment processing when we go, for example, in a multi-tenancy system and build, say, several SaaS modules or SaaS products on top of the boilerplate. We have to think about that. We want each product to be able to integrate its own payment processor, maybe even its own authentication process. So it could be like SSO, for example. I want to make it aware of that is something that I'm thinking about. We have to think about this being multi-tenancy, that auth and payment should be configurable at, say, SaaS product level as well, not only at BP level, because we do not want our customers' payments to reach our accounts and then have to transfer the money back to them invoicing. That would create a big tax mess. So let's just try to see where it actually goes from here. I really love the idea that it already came with. Oh yeah, let's say comms is not important for MVP, for the cost MVP. And as you can see here, I'm just throwing things in as they kind of come to mind. So let's just go ahead, hybrid approach for the databases, maybe. So big customers have own DB, while smaller customers share DB. Or what were you thinking? Thinking when you mentioned, say, separate schemas. A schema is basically it's a structure of a DB, but a logical one. Whereas we can also say that a database is the structure of a database is logical, but this will give the possibility to partitionate, say that, or partition the different output from same tables, I guess. When I think about it, let's see what it actually says here. So schema per tenant, it's a good middle ground probably. They probably like so big customers, tenants, just to have that reference. Yeah, okay, and then we also deployment from Replit will be Replit to GitHub, and then clone from GitHub to VM or container. We do have to think about installation, soul scripts for initial setup of the BP and COS. We'll probably do that with npm or a Docker YAML file as well. And I was thinking about here as well, and for upgrading, upgrading, wow, there we go, upgrading database, say structure tables, schemas, and that kind of stuff. I actually think that we're pretty good here. I love the idea about the Postgres, and the React Next would probably be good, and Node Express. Let's just hit enter and run and see where we are ending up here.